watching Business Plus. This is a Women's Day special, and we are here today with top stories we're tracking at this hour. Over 23% salaried women see a gender pay gap in workplaces in India. CRISIL report highlights how women perceive gender discrimination at workplaces. Percentage of women in senior management is falling since 2021. Grant Thornton report on women in business attributes falling number to evolving work models. 70% of women identify work-life balance as their main obstacle to career advancement. A Hero Wired report spills the beans on what's keeping women away from leadership roles. But women continue to rule the roost in savings. A FinEdge study reveals 71% women stayed invested for over 5 years. 44% women prioritize retirement. On the flip side, out of 472 mutual fund managers in India, only 42 are women, a Morningstar report has revealed. And we'll also be bringing an exclusive conversation with Sugar co-founder Vinitha Singh, who speaks about her journey, her struggles and her plans for Sugar Cosmetics going forward. And we're tracking all of those stories here on Women's Day on Business Plus. With me is my colleague Preeti Agnihotri. The top story, of course, that we're tracking, Preeti, at this hour comes by the way of that very important, crucial CRISIL report that talks about how salaried women in India still perceive a very stark gender gap. In fact, the survey also goes on to talk about how women, despite various concerted attempts that many companies are making, are feeling the heat of gender discrimination at workplaces. Udisha Srivastav also joining us here with more on that crucial story. Udisha, take us through what are the key takeaways of that CRISIL report.
So first of all, a very happy Women's Day to both of you. There are a plethora of reports that are out that talk about women and corporate life. So a lot of reports are out, and we are going to trace some of the recent reports, and one of the reports that's there is termed Women and Finance Report, and it's done in partnership with CRISIL and DBS Bank. Now, what are the findings of this report? According to this report, 23% salaried women, they perceive that there is a gender-based pay gap, and this survey accounted for 800 women, and they were spread across 10 Indian cities. So this is the chunk, the data set of this survey. And while we are on the topic of gender based pay gap, there is also a perception of gender bias. So 16% out of this total pool of women, 16% face gender bias. Now this gender bias could be in the form of sometimes you realize that you are not being prioritized in decision making process. Sometimes you might feel that there is not enough equal opportunities for you available. So that's out of the total size. Now the report has categorized these women in terms of affluent and semi-affluent women. Affluent women, these are the women who are earning per year between 41 lakh to 55 lakhs. So 30% of such women feel that there is a gender based pay gap, there is an unequal pay, and that segregation is based on nothing but just on their gender. And now talking about gender bias, same percentage also feel that there is a gender bias. Now moving on to the next category, which is semi-affluent women, and these are the women who are earning somewhere between 10 to 25 lakhs per year. Now 18% of them feel that there is a gender based pay gap, and compared to the semi-affluent affluent women who were feeling it at 30, semi-affluent feel it at 18%. Okay. Now the perceivance of gender bias, 12% of them feel that there is a gender bias at the workplace, at the corporate spaces. Now there is an interesting data point also about when women sit to negotiate salaries. 42% of such women feel that negotiating salaries is tough and they feel challenged. Now we can discuss why women feel that there is a challenge and they encounter difficulty, and we can take on this conversation from there.
Very interesting data sets, Preeti, coming in there. I think the trend line that is emerging right now from when we put this data together is that more affluent you become, the more you earn, the more difficult it gets for you, the more bias you are likely to see.
Yeah. See, if you see the companies recently, if you've seen many of the affluent women have the data reflects that they do find this challenge because of the no reforms being provided by the HR and the senior management.
Okay.
So they
Sairee
should be
is
more
also with us.
Yeah,
so let's take this up to her. Sairee Chahal, founder, CEO, Sheroes, joining us here on the show. Sairee, thank you very much for taking time out. Very good to have you on Women's Day today. Taking us through the data and of course from your life, takeaways from what you've seen in business and listening to various women from various sectors around the country. In your perception, does it get more difficult when you are up at the top of the ladder as opposed to when you're climbing that ladder? Because the data at this point is hinting that when you are in the affluent class, you feel that gender bias way more.
Yeah. Thank you. Happy Women's Day to all of you, and thank you for having me here. I do agree that as you reach the top, one, it gets lonelier. So you will see, I mean, whether you look at number of women CEOs, you look at women in leadership, the pipeline keeps getting thinner, and which means that safety of numbers gets lost there, and therefore your ability to negotiate actually goes down a tad. And I do think that there are biases across levels, just the intensity changes. And I think, for example, when you're starting out your career, let's say you live in a small town and you're just beginning your career, your challenges are very different. You still face biases, sometimes familiar, sometimes very core patriarchal values come in, or just simple things like safety. You're fighting for very basic hygiene factors at that point in time. But as your career keeps going up, you reach the C-suite, you reach the boardroom, the numbers are so thin that the odds actually are stacked against you pretty much all the time. And that pretty much is something we've seen in a lot of our work, both at Sheroes and Mahila Money, the neobank for women that we're building right now. And also in the venture space, both as a founder, I've been a founder who's raised a lot of venture dollars. And of course, I'm building a venture fund right now, and I see that trend as well continuously.
All right. So as they say, it gets lonelier on the top perhaps, and the data is also reflecting that at the moment. There is also a very interesting Grant Thornton report that talks about how year on year, in fact, in the leadership roles, women are on a decline. Now, what do you attribute it to? The report says it is because of changing work models. Let's get Udisha back into this conversation. Udisha, again, data points emerging that talk about how in leadership specifically, women are not being able to take the same sort of roles. They're not able to continue beyond a certain point. And the number they're declining is something that is terrifying a lot of women.
That's very true, and there are reasons. The report has attributed some reasons also for the same. But first of all, let's look at the data. So the consultancy firm Grant Thornton has released this report titled Women and Business Report for the year 2024. And if you look at the percentage of women leaders, and remember we are talking about the companies with the revenues between $10 million to $1 billion. So now look at this data set. And this is post-COVID we are talking about. So 2021, you had 39% of women in top management role, top senior positions. Now 2022, this number declines 38%. 2023, again there is a decline 36%, and now currently in 2024, there are just 34% of women. So it's a downward spiral, downward trajectory that we are witnessing, and the report is saying that there are reasons for it. For example, after COVID, companies started to, reducing the hybrid work model, right? So earlier women could work from home, they could also go to the office. There was a choice. But now this element of choice is declining. Women are being asked to come back to offices. So now that's a difficulty that they are facing. And this is one precise reason why the percentage of women in the top roles is reducing. Now let's come back to another report. And this report is by Hero Wired. Hero Wired is a learn tech platform which is from the Hero Group stable. Now what women actually want, and this report is titled, Women in Modern Workplaces. So again, we are talking about corporate women, women who are working in organized sector. So now as per this report, 70% of women, and this report surveyed 2 lakh women, remember. So 70% of them are saying that they need better work-life balance, because work-life balance is coming across as a major challenge when it comes to their career growth, right? And next up is women, and this is a very interesting data set. 70% of the women surveyed out of those 2 lakhs, they are saying that they need more women as bosses. They need more women in leadership roles so that they have somebody to take inspiration from, somebody to look up to. A role model for 78% of women is quite important. Now this report is also focused a lot on upskilling. Remember, upskilling, we are talking about upskilling a lot in the 21st century, where people are taking several courses, enrolling them in several programs. So 55% of the women believe that upskilling programs are important, and a lot of them are saying that whenever we come back from a career break, now this career break could be due to a health issue, could be because of maternity leaves, anything else, they are saying that to catch up with what has happened while they were at leave, they need upskilling programs, schemes and policies so that they can keep up with the time. For example, a company started using a new tech tool, they need to catch up with it, need to brace up with what is happening, and they are saying that they are willing to invest. 65% of them are saying that they are willing to invest from their own pocket because they believe that this will definitely help in their career advancement.
All right, Udisha, thank you for those data points. Let's go back to Sairee. Sairee, we are in the 21st century. This is 2024 and we're still talking about how women are not able to catch up. You know, a lot of data points that are coming out of these reports, but I want to bring up first on why women in leadership roles are declining. Now, the downward spiral that we are witnessing since 2021, many are saying is because of the changing work model. So people are expected to now come back to offices. Perhaps that is not suitable for women. Do you believe at a time when we talk about investing in women, perhaps we must also look at other models of working that will inspire and also help women either be in the workforce, help them being retained in the workforce, and also perhaps come back if they have taken a break? I think you're on mute, Sairee.
Yeah. We made a lot of progress in what we call top of the funnel, which means a lot more women are getting educated, a lot more women are reaching higher education, a lot more women are entering the workforce than ever before. We definitely have a retention problem, especially at the middle rung, which is, so when a woman is in her 30s, her career is taking off, but so are her family responsibilities. Unfortunately, we haven't yet built a society and we haven't yet started work on making caregiving and family responsibilities equal, and I really think some of this literally goes back to having things like everyone should learn to cook while they are in school, everyone should learn how to do daily chores without knowing what their gender is. And I think some of these things are so fundamental that women end up doing a lot more caregiving in the Indian society. And we are a complex society.
You know,
Big
sorry, it's a
weddings.
very interesting, sorry to cut you short there,
Yeah.
very interesting
Yeah.
conversation. I was having this conversation with my editor yesterday and he said, well, in my family, we try and divide work. I want to understand, is there more data available out there that can suggest that this goes beyond anecdotal evidence?
Absolutely.
It's actually
So
women who
spend
still continue
3x
to be the primary caregivers.
Absolutely. So women spend 3x more time doing invisible work, which is caregiving work, housework, daily chores, than an average male. So which means men obviously have a lot more time to devote at work. The other challenge is that we still don't have adequate childcare infrastructure in this country, which means that either in a nuclear family, women end up giving up their careers, or you need to stay in a small town with your extended family, which is obviously where a lot of breakage happens. Flexibility and remote work are a massive driver of retention for women in the workforce, and at least at Sheroes, we've invested in it in a mega way through our Mars by Sheroes program, where almost 20,000 women are remote employees for large companies, and they continue to keep their careers because of the flexibility offered because of the platform. And we find that you can not build a leadership pipeline without having adequate number of women keeping their careers, especially at the vice president level. I think the leakage at that level, when you're 30, 35, the workday is typically 12 to 15 hours, and you have equal number of responsibilities at home. That's the most critical time in anyone's career, and that's where you're also getting ready to be a leader. You're getting ready for the C-suite. Your next promotion is probably a head of business or a P&L owner or a C-suite position, and that has a ripple effect. We see that most companies fail to keep women at the leadership level. Most companies fail to retain senior management talent because of some of these really rudimentary challenges. And the other trend to watch here is I call what is corporate India's loss is entrepreneurship's gain. A lot more women are becoming entrepreneurs because of the flexibility it offers them, because of the opportunity that India, of course, has at this point in time. So when we look at women in the workforce, we should be very cognizant of the fact that entrepreneurship is a parallel dual engine that is available to us, and a lot of women are opting for it.
Hi, Sairee, Preeti here. I
Hi,
would like to
Preeti.
ask you, like, women are known to be better with time management, risk management. They are more creative, adaptability is better with them. So what kind of, how can we bridge this gap, professionally? How can we bring the women back who've taken long career breaks?
Right. So I think a couple of things that have worked both in the West and elsewhere. Flexibility at work is a big factor, and I think what I call family-friendly workplaces. We know for a fact that we only expect in organizations women to take career breaks. We don't expect fathers to take breaks when they have children, and I believe that making workplaces more family-friendly is the way to go because it creates a neutral environment. It doesn't create an environment where it seems that the rules are different for men and women. Secondly, mid-career support systems. So sometimes it comes from flexibility. Sometimes it comes from having things like caregiving allowance or childcare at work or crashes at work or whatever the nature of the organization is. But it's very important to have that infrastructure in place. And the third is, of course, making sure there are enough role models, mentors, organizations that have senior women or are founded by women tend to retain women better. They have more women in workforce, but they also have more women in leadership. And I think there are some lessons there, which means that the work environment, the flexibility, and overall infrastructure for family friendliness are core to keeping workplaces gender equal.
All right. Sorry, before we move on from this conversation, I think one of the core challenges and a problem as a woman myself and along with other women around me continue to face is that there are a lot of programs around inclusion, building diversity. For some reason, they all have seemed to have failed women over years now. What is not working and what can we do? We do know that there is a problem and we do know what possible solutions are out there. What's missing right now?
I think the core of most inclusion programs is that they're at the periphery of organizations. They're not at the core of it. They are nice to do's. They are typically done with a lot of zest, but I think they need more feet. And what I mean by that is that we definitely need to put our money where our mouth is. So like we work with a lot of organizations, and we work with a lot of organizations building programs around inclusion, returnships. I think the numbers just don't add up. For very large companies, there would be single digit hiring programs, or there would be programs that are so thin that, we know that they're not set up for success in the first place. I think fundamental changes that are core to the business. We cannot build these programs if they're not absolutely aligned to the direction of the business, and they can't sit on the periphery, and they definitely need capital as we know it, whether in form of hiring more women or in form of infrastructure investment. I think this should be treated as a long-term investment and not as a quarter tak, to do's to tick off the list, events, functions, launches, all of that, but not seeing these things through is not the way to go.
Right, not just paper tiger,
Yeah,
perhaps.
and it also shows us that women at very young age should become financially independent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Sairee, what do you suggest? How early should women start their financial
Actually,
planning?
absolutely. I'm a big fan of school and college internships, and I think the sooner you start to see the ropes. My daughter's now finishing school, but she did her first internship when she was in class sixth. And she went out and worked in a dog grooming studio, something she loved. But it's gave her a sense of the workplace, a sense of independence, the sense of going out. And I do think we need to start at the school level and then at the college level. And the other thing I want to say is, in a world that's so fast evolving, it's being disrupted, companies have a shorter lifespan. We also need to inculcate an entrepreneurial mindset. I think an entrepreneurial problem solving mindset is the way to be financially independent as early as in school and hopefully in college. And I also believe that we definitely need a lot more conversation around money. I think a lot of us come from families where money and women were not spoken in the same sentence. Women talking about money was not seen in good light. We were always sort of told to hush up about it in public conversations. And I think that needs to change. And of course, building what I call multiple sources of income, whether it's through investments, assets, hobbies, the internet, side hustles. I think they all need to be encouraged from a very early point in your career.
Yeah, we can include it in the school curriculum as well.
Must include it in school curriculum. But since we're talking about women and money, there are some very interesting trends emerging. My colleague Shreya is here with us. Shreya, when you look at the number of women who are staying invested, that is on the rise. Women who are talking about financializations of their savings, that's also on the rise. With more and more women, it appears, are now concerned about their retirement plans, about their children's health and education, about their family, possibilities of where they can take off on a holiday, how much they can save. All in all, it does appear that financialization of savings is becoming a reality.
Exactly, Shweta. And women investors have been on the rise. And according to a survey by Finech, 42%, there has been a 42% increase in women investors as compared to 2022. Whereas 5% women investors also think 5%, they save 5% more as compared to men for their future goals and financial planning. About 31% of women investors also prioritize retirement planning. So you can see a shift in financial planning and also making sure that their financial goals and financial independence is very important. Now, when you look at a brokerage firm, when you look at women investors across India, now there are significant women investors in the north as well as the west region. The southern region also seems to be catching up. However, there are only 8% of women investors in the east that are taking up investing. The data also suggests that at what age do women generally start investing? Shweta, at what age did you start investing?
I was in my late 20s.
So the data also suggests that there are about 39% of women investors who start investing in their 20s, whereas the other 41% of women investors, they start investing in their 30s. So all in all, about 80% of women investors lie in the age bracket of 20 to their 30s. Now, the report by Nippon Mutual Fund also points out that there are about 66% of women who prefer mutual funds as an investment, and a staggering 49% of them also prefer investing in SIPs. Now, when you look at the SIP data, you can see that there are around 14,000 that women on an average invest 14,000 per month, as compared to men who invest 13,400 per month. So now you can infer from the data, traditionally we expect men to invest more as compared to women, but the data suggests that women are more financially planning for their future goals.
Absolutely, women are planning better perhaps, and are increasingly getting more and more aware about their financial goals. Sairee, this is a trend line. I think it should make us all happy, but also goes on to reaffirm a strongly and very long held belief that women are better financial managers. Unfortunately, till date, there are just over around 50 out of 470 fund managers in the country who are women. What do you make of this conflicting data?
Absolutely. Actually, when you look at this data in a slightly more holistic view, if you look at consumption of financial products in this country, out of every 100 loans given, less than 10 loans are given to women. Out of all financial products consumed, whether it's credit cards, SIPs, insurance, actually less than 7% of that goes to women. So we still have a long way to go when it comes to consumption of financial products at a scale. When you extract this out, look at the number of women who are educated, who now use digital mediums, who now use payments, and run maybe a small business or are part of the workforce in some way. We have a long ground to cover there. And I think same for women in capital markets, in financial markets, in fund management industries. These are industries that have typically been male dominated because the consumers were always men. So I think the correlation here is As we see more women consumers, we are very likely to see more women fund managers in the industry. And I do hope that we continue to retain talent at mid levels so that we can have more fund managers at the top.
Interesting. The correlation, it doesn't make much sense, but perhaps there will be a change in trend. As I wrap this up, from what I'm understanding, Sairee, it does look like we've covered a long road. There's been a lot that has been done when it comes to either bringing women back into the workforce, ensuring that there are more women leaders. But all of this appears to be, till date, bit of lip service to me. A lot of policies out there that look like they are going to be revolutionizing the way women participate in the workforce, but haven't had any material sort of change, and there is no material evidence to support a change that has emerged. In your view, in 2024, what is the biggest challenge that women are facing, and what can the government really do about it?
Yeah, I think we need interventions at two levels. One is fundamental KPI of the government. If you look at women in workforce today, it's actually not on anyone's agenda. It's not a KPI that the Women's and Child Ministry represents. It's not a KPI of the Skill Ministry or Ministry of Commerce. So who is really tracking it and investing in it? And I think that's a really hard question for us to answer. If we want India to be on the development track that we all hope to be, then we can't get there without women contributing to the economic mainstream. So employment, entrepreneurship, and access to capital are core themes, and it needs to be a KPI at a policy level. The second is just access to capital. I think we need to invest more in women, both at a GDP level, which means investing in women as fund managers, as provider of credit, as direct credit to women, particularly entrepreneurs. I think these are very important levers if we need to change the numbers that we are at today. And secondly, just fundamental long-term investment. So whether it's child infrastructure, childcare, family-friendly workplaces, safety, I think investment in safety still continues to be poor, and we can't get there without taking care of fundamental hygiene of safety there. But having said that, as somebody who's worked for about 15 years in the space and has seen this change, we used to have 10 million women, 10 million users online. We have.
All right. All right, I think we've lost Sairee at this point in time, but there is a change, of course, that is fast emerging, which is what Sairee is also pointing at. A lot more needs to be covered. Perhaps these policies need to go beyond paper, better implementation, a KPI of the government to really ensure that more and more women are served when it comes to financialization of their savings, to getting them back into the workforce. Those continue to be some of the major challenges that women are facing at the moment. We continue to getting you all those updates here on News9. It is International Women's Day. Wishing all our viewers a very happy Women's Day. Thank you for watching.